You mentioned Jor-El a little bit earlier, and the fact that Clark has this, doesn't want anything to do with his Kryptonian side because it's so scary for him, and his first encounter as a kid was, really kind of confusing. And having Jor-El speak exclusively in Kryptonian for the longest time is, it's created that divide for Clark between his heritage. It was an interesting direction to go for the character, having just him speaking in that alien language. Was there any thought process to creating the alien language? Like, is it derivative of anything? Does it mean anything? How did that come about? How did you develop the Kryptonian language?
Yeah, well, yeah, the I think the DC official term is Kryptonese, but yeah, the Kryptonese started as we basically always knew that we wanted this version to not understand Jor-El, because like and I mean the biggest one is like the '78 movie is like the big scene everybody remembers, but like in almost every Superman media, Clark gets a crystal that projects Jor-El or talks to him, and it just speaks perfect English. And he's like, "Hello, my son. Here is everything you need to know about your powers and the past, and everything that like you could ever want." So we knew that we wanted to play with that. That's one of the things that we wanted to do that made our show different, which is it doesn't to us it didn't make sense that Jor-El would know English, so he's speaking Kryptonese, and that gives us that disconnect, like you said, between Clark and his heritage. And it also, plays a little bit, I think, on that like trope of like being the ultimate immigrant, being the ultimate adoptee, where like we have friends and people who've worked on the show or people who've seen the show who are like, "Hey, I'm a transracial adoptee," and that really hit home for me because boy, like I try to learn about my past and that there's language barriers and there's things I can't get past. So we knew it was really important that Jor-El not speak English and that Clark not understand him. Where the language comes in is we, in our hubris, thought that maybe DC just had a Kryptonese language already to go. Like we knew that they had the Kryptonese writing already. So we like asked DC, and Mike Carlin actually was our DC liaison for that. We're like, "Hey, Mike Carlin, is there an official like language that we can just use?" And he was like, "Nope, you got nobody else has done this." So I'm the one who ended up inventing the language, and what I did was I know like a tiny bit of Esperanto. So what I would do is we would write. I know I just killed Mike. I just killed
Yes,
Michael.
yes, you did.
So like we would write all of Jor-El's lines in English, like we knew what he was saying, and then I would translate it into Esperanto. And then any like Esperanto sounds largely like a Romance language, so any bit that sounded too close to somebody being able to translate it, I'd take out and replace with a word from a couple of different languages. So like it's Esperanto with Hebrew, German, Basque Spanish, Chinese, but a Korean thrown in. And then I also changed the tenses, or the not the tenses, sorry, the articles a little bit. So instead of like oh la, like the stuff that like if you're listening, you could like interpret that or like be able to translate that. Like so, we've got fa as our like main like article of like fa means of, it means the, like so you see like Jor-El fa Krypton. So yeah, so basically each script we would write it out in English, and then there'd be a pass at the very end where I would translate into Esperanto, and they'd go, "Okay, this is too recognizable," and so then I'd start like like a Mad Libs mismatching words. So it's like it's a it sounds like a language. It sounds like he's speaking a real language. He's able to articulate things. Like there's a couple of words that people have translated, but there's just enough dissonance that then you're like, well, I don't understand this. Like I thought I understood this word, but I don't understand this word, which also like kind of mirrors how Clark feels. It's like a little familiar, but at the same time, he has no idea what's going on. So yeah, thank you, Google Translate. Thank you, old classes in various languages. That's Kryptonese.
Wow, that is phenomenal. Yeah, and a lot of people wouldn't think about, how much detail and thought goes into creating something like that. And yeah, that, my hat goes off to. That's impressive.
Thank you, thank you. It
Sorry,
was
I'm,
it
I'm
was
still
fun.
stuck
A
on
lot
the
of work.
Esperanto thing. I'm completely stuck on this. I mean, it's just like it's this obscure thing from like the '60s. There was a William Shatner movie that was exclusively in
Yes.
Esperanto. which actually was shown in Blade Trinity of all things. It's the movie Ryan Reynolds is
Yeah.
watching. Getting better. So sorry, I'm gonna get back to this show.
I've had to explain a couple of times to people who are like younger than me too. I'm like, okay, in the like 60s, 70s, they were gonna make a universal language that nobody spoke, so we all had to learn it. But yeah, I had a couple of hippie teachers growing up, so I know a little Esperanto.
Amazing.
So
Like written Esperanto. I
speaking,
couldn't speak it. Yeah.